All right.
I was running around this office so crazy that now I'm like stress eating.
Yeah.
I've got grapefruit juice like all over the desk.
Okay, so let's call the meeting to order. Does anybody have any citizen comments? Catherine, did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did. I just have a quick comment about Nature Watch.
Yes, thank you.
So now that we're in the new year, one of my resolutions is to get back to getting that going again. And I did get to talk with Carolyn about, if people just go off and do something on their own, like a little litter cleanup or walkthrough, then I'm going to send out information so everyone knows how to report back that information, like things they might see that need to be cleaned up, erosion, bulky trash items to be picked up. We do have a good way for people to report that back to the Public Works Department. But I'm just making a quick note so everybody knows that it has not been forgotten.
Oh yeah, Helen, do you want to add to that?
Well, I'm not exactly adding. I wanted to ask if do we have a list of people who are interested in being on Nature Watch, and is that something that we can share with everybody? Or do you want to wait?
We can always make it an agenda item for a future meeting. I mean, so Joe was going out of town and wanted to talk about doing a meeting like after he got back, and I think he was getting back in January, right? Like because the trail cleanup that he proposed never happened.
Right.
So he talked about doing like starting there basically with that trail. I can't remember what creek it is. So I mean, we could make it an agenda item to actually plan to do that cleanup, as well as what Catherine's talking about and sending out information to individuals.
Well, yes, and again, my question, sorry if I wasn't being clear, is, Catherine, you have a list. I know I've sent you a couple of names of people who are outside the city who want to join. And do we have you're keeping a list of the people who are interested in being part of Nature Watch?
Yes.
Can that be shared, or should we wait until later to share it? Wait until we've formalized it more?
I don't have it organized in a way to share. I just have all the emails saved in a folder right now until I'm ready to put together a group email. So eventually, yes, but I haven't put it into anything shareable quite yet. But, I didn't want to take up a lot of time on this. I just thought maybe it would be a worthy agenda item in the future.
I think that's
later if you have time. Yeah, I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and I missed a couple of items in the chat. So we'd like everyone to mute themselves when they're not talking, because there's a lot of feedback going on. And then I also wanted to introduce our new Public Works Director, Jay. Jay, do you want to say a few words? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that before I called the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us.
You bet. Thank y'all. I just want to let everyone know that I am here to help in any way that I can. So feel free to reach out to me at any time, and be glad to do whatever we can to help y'all.
Thank you. Are there any other citizen comments? We talked about Nature Watch. Anything else? Helen, you're muted, Helen. I think now we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. We were, I know that one of the items on the agenda is for a workshop, I believe, about impervious cover, or that's part of the things that we're doing this year, about looking at impervious cover. And I contacted Dr. Nico Howard, who is probably the expert on the Barton Springs Edward Aquifer District, and he works for the city of Austin now. He's actually the manager of the Balcones Canyonlands. But back in the 90s, when all that was going on, he was right up front. He got his PhD in probably springs in the district, in the aquifer. he and another engineer or geologist from Barton Springs Aquifer District, whom we worked with hand in hand back in those days. They are totally familiar with it. And Nico has volunteered to meet with us in a workshop so that we can talk to him and he can make a presentation. He does this a lot. He's making a presentation to the Sierra Club next month, and he's going to send me that talk if that link is available. Plus, he's already sent me another link from another talk that he made and some slides. So I'm going to be sharing that with the committee if you'd like, or certainly whoever's interested. I can share that, start sharing those kinds of information just to kind of get us primed. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I can't really see if anyone's raising their hands the way GoToMeeting is on my computer. So feel free to chime in if anyone has anything else. Otherwise, are we ready to go on to introduction of committee members?
Yeah, and Zoe, it's Karen. I'll try to see the raised hands and let you know.
Thank you. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Oh, maybe I think I was just looking at the chat. Okay, maybe I'll see that. All right. So why don't we introduce ourselves? I'll start, and then I'll just pass it off to the next participant. But I'm Zoe Treef. I live on Sunflower Trail. I've been on the P&E Committee for I don't even know how long now, like 4 years or something. I've been chair for a while. Like time just kind of blurs. So, but I'm happy to be here. Katherine, would you like to go next?
Sure, thanks. Hi, I'm Katherine Johnson. I live on Reese Drive, and this will be my second year serving on the P&E Committee, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Helen, how about you? I'll go across and then down the list. You're muted. I'm sorry.
I keep forgetting that one. Helen Bessie on Oakdale, and I've been on the P&E committee for a long time, years. I don't know. I couldn't possibly tell you. And I've been a resident in Sunset Valley for right on 40 years. So seen a lot of history and very, very happy to be continuing to be on this committee, which I think is one of the most important, well, they're all important, but a very important part of the city of Sunset Valley. Thanks.
Thank you. Lisa, how about you? Lisa Versace. Hi.
Hi. It took a minute, the unmute button. Oh, I'm so tired of the computer glitches. Hopefully I'm not the one providing the audio feedback loop here. I live on Pillow Road, and I am happy to be serving on this committee for the second year. And it looks like we have a lot of work to do. So I'm ready to dig in, get going.
Awesome. Craig, can you introduce yourself? I think you guys will have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Craig Eisler, and I live on Reese, and I'm a newbie. So thank you for selecting me, and I hope my contributions are valuable. My expertise is in GIS, Geographic Information Systems. So geographic analysis and mapping is what I've been doing for most of my career. I'm kind of winding my career down a little bit now. So I'm just teaching these days at ACC. So I'm a professor there, and I have been for over 10 years. But that's where most of my work is directed now at the college. So I look forward to all the work we're going to get accomplished.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome,
Don?
Craig. I'm glad that you took my encouragement to join.
Yeah. Thanks to Lisa and Katherine. And
I've been chomping at the bit to get Craig to present to the group. So
good.
Nice recruiting. Hey, Alice. Don, do you want to introduce yourself? Dawn, I think you're still muted if you're speaking.
There we go. It does take a while to unmute.
Yeah.
I'm Dawn Dixon, and I live on Lone Oak Trail. I'm a new resident and a new member of the committee, so this is my first meeting.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Alice, how about you? Do you mind? We're going around and we're introducing ourselves. I think you're probably muted now. Oh, maybe not.
I'm not. I am
Yeah.
muted. I'm Alice Duffy. I live at 10 Lone Oak. I have been here for almost 5 years. And yeah, I'm happy to be on the committee. And I'm a real estate agent, so I'm doing a lot of work here. All of a sudden, people are like, wow, my property's worth that. So a lot is going on Lone Oak. So much construction.
Yeah. Okay. Jay, you want to introduce yourself? Jay Hargrave?
Yes, hi, it's
Hi.
Jay Hargrave. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am the husband of Rose Cardona, and we've been here for about 10 years, and I'm an architect and have worked with a TCEQ and Federal Fish and Wildlife on a number of projects that involve BCCP and others. Site plan issues. And my interest in being involved in the committee primarily relates to zoning impervious cover and balancing that with owners' property rights.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a big focus. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Lucy, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Lucy Hairston. I live on Lone Oak. I've been here about 8 years. I've been on the committee about 5 years at least, I guess, 5 or 6. And I'm ready to address the issues. So
I think you're one of our most valuable members too, because you watch the clock. You value people being succinct.
I don't like to be here way late. So
No, I don't blame you.
I like to push people along.
That's a very important position. Michael, are you there? Could you introduce yourself?
As soon as I find the mute button.
There you are.
Okay, Michael Moore, and this will be my 3rd year on the committee, and live on Sunflower Trail, and look forward to the coming year.
Thank you. Let's see. Karen, how about you? Would you introduce yourself?
Oh, okay. Karen Medicus. I've been on P&E for, I think, 4 years now, or 3 years. Previously on zoning for many years, and currently on city council as your council liaison.
Perfect. Okay. Did I miss anybody? I mean, Carolyn and Sylvia, but is there anyone else who's on the committee that I may have missed?
Melissa.
Melissa, sorry. Oh, Melissa, I didn't realize you're on the committee. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, would you introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Melissa, 26 Reese Drive, neighbors on my other Reese friends here. The last time I hung out in P&E, only Helen was on the committee back in the Jenkins era when she was on council. So yeah, that's I haven't been here very often, but some people asked me to come join, so I did.
Yeah, welcome back. Thank you.
I wasn't official back then. I just hung out. Have a good day. We'll see y'all soon. I'm gonna go back to being mute.
Okay. All right. So I think we're ready to go to the liaison report. Karen, are you ready?
Yes. So mainly what I have to report is what is actually part of our item number 7, which are the goals and objectives for the committee work for everybody to review. So I think that's really all I have to report until we get to that point, if you have questions.
Okay, that sounds good. Is okay. Number 5. Carolyn, I'm just looking at your screen. Could you scroll down a little bit? Like, are we ready to start appointing people, or do we have other things? Oh, we need to just do like a general review of P&E activities first.
Zoe, you probably should do the chair and the appointments. That way, if there's any action or direction to staff, it's coming from the newly appointed.
Got it. Okay.
Whoever's going to do that. And I uploaded that document also in the materials, the committee election process to follow Robert's rules.
Okay, perfect.
Everybody can see that document if they'd like.
Because of the way my laptop is, I can really only see like Carolyn's screen. I can't really open other windows at the same time. But my understanding is that we'll vote on the committee chair, and then everyone can enter like their nomination in the chat box, and then we'll vote on, if there are more than one candidate, we'll vote on the candidates. And then we'll move to the vice chair and secretary. Is that correct?
Let me, Carolyn, I'm gonna make myself the presenter so I can open up that item. You can keep typing on your screen.
Thanks, Sylvia.
I have a question. This is Rudy Rosengarten.
Yes.
Since this is a new committee, we really don't have a chair. You only have a liaison. So shouldn't the liaison be chairing the first meeting until officers are selected?
Correct, which is what I'm about to pull up, so that that's why I stopped Zoe where she was. That way there's no direction to staff or anything like that from anything that would have come out of any of that discussion.
Thank you.
So are you guys able to see my screen? Okay, I don't know if I was on pause. So this was distributed, the mayor and Matt and I worked so that we could distribute this to all the committees, so everybody's following the same process to make sure that we have followed good open meetings and that we do have appropriate processes in place, so that if there's ever a question or somebody falls off or how did they get elected, yada, yada, yada. So in this case, Zoe, yes, the presiding officer is the current chair or the council liaison. So we're going to have some committees, I think, that will no longer have a committee chair. So you've called the meeting to order. Yes. You now call for nominations of the chair position.
Yes. Helen, did you need to discuss anything before we start taking nominations?
Well, I'm a little bit confused because my understanding is that we can nominate someone for the position, then we get a second, and if there's no second, then we ask for another nomination. I've never done this where you go around the table and get a bunch of people. That doesn't seem like that follows Robert's rules.
I'm sorry, this has been vetted by 3 or 4 different people, including legal.
But is that new?
So no, so Helen, Robert's rules, basically you take nominations and there is no second. So you just take nominations until no one else has nominations, and then you close the nominations and then you vote. That's how Robert's rules runs.
Okay, okay, I have a different set of Robert's rules, but okay, good.
Sorry.
I'm ready. Yes.
Okay, are we ready to get started then? So should we have people just enter their nominations in the chat box, or do we just say it out loud?
So if you wouldn't mind calling roll, and then like calling each member, see if they have a nomination, and then we'll do it that way. This is virtual, so it's a little bit harder, but the way we go around the table.
Okay, and then can council liaisons make nominations and alternate members?
No,
just
alternate members, honorary members, and council liaisons cannot nominate.
Got it. Okay, so I'm just going to go down the attendee list, and if I've missed someone at the end, please let me know. Okay, Alice, you are the first one on the list. Do you have a nomination?
I do not have a nomination.
Okay. Craig, you are next up. Do you have a nomination for committee chair?
I'm too new, so no, I do not.
Okay. No pressure for anyone. Don, do you have a nomination for committee chair?
I do not.
Okay. Helen, how about you?
I nominate Zoe.
Thank you. Okay. Jay Hargrave, how about you?
I would nominate Zoe.
Thank you. Okay. Catherine, how about you?
I would also nominate Zoe.
Thank you. Lisa, do you have someone you'd like to nominate? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
I'll second and third and fourth it,
Okay. Thank you.
or whatever it is.
Okay. Lucy, do you have a nomination for committee chair?
I do not.
Okay. Melissa, how about you?
Oh, I was on the Zoe bandwagon too.
Thank you very much. Okay, did I miss everyone? I think I got everyone, but please let me know if I missed somebody.
You missed Michael Moore.
He's alternate, right?
Yeah, I'm an alternate.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's not that you don't count, but
Thanks.
Okay.
okay.
Since there's only one nomination, you may be elected by acclamation. So it's a simple vote that says everybody who is in favor of Zoe. Simple vote.
Okay. Do we just say it aloud, or do you want us to type it in the chat box and read the results?
You can just say everybody in favor, yes, everybody not.
Okay,
Just say
everybody
something.
in favor, please say yes. If not, please say no.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I consent.
I have may I say something?
Sure.
Oh, I mean, everybody knows that Zoe is the partner of Mark. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And I know we don't have nepotism in volunteer or in positions, but I just think it's a good thing for that to be out there.
Thank you. Yeah, especially since we have different last names. That's a good point.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, it should be out there so that we should be unbiased and neutral, but okay.
I will always strive to be unbiased and neutral.
Absolutely, I believe that. But there should be no inferred nepotism.
Okay. So are we ready to go ahead and move to the vice chair position?
You're good to call for nominations, yes.
Oh,
Around the
okay.
table.
All right. Okay, we'll go down the list again. Okay, Alice, do you have a nomination for vice chair?
No.
Okay. Craig?
No nomination.
All right. Don, how about you?
I do not have a nomination.
Okay. Helen, do you have a nomination?
I'm trying to look at my list here. I want to nominate Lucy, but I don't think she'll do it. But she doesn't have a choice for the nomination, right?
I don't think
She
so.
does have a choice. She can say she doesn't accept the nomination.
Oh, okay.
I would prefer not, thank you.
Thank you,
All
Lucy.
right.
You know me well, Helen.
I do indeed.
Okay. Jay Hargrave, do you have a nomination?
I would nominate Lisa.
Lisa Versace?
Yes.
Lisa, are you interested in being vice chair? Okay. All right. Okay, Catherine, you're in the list. Do you have a nomination for vice chair?
I do not.
Okay. Lisa, do you have a nomination for vice chair, yourself or somebody else? Okay, you're muted this time again.
I mean, I think Helen is pretty knowledgeable about P&E. So if I had to nominate someone, it might be Helen.
Helen, are you interested?
I wasn't myself.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Helen, you're interested?
Yes, and I'd be happy to serve with Lisa. I mean, yes.
Okay.
I am interested.
Okay. Lucy, do you have a nomination?
No, I do not.
Okay. Melissa, how about you?
I don't particularly have a nomination, but I'm curious who is the current vice chair?
Sarah Ponder was the previous vice chair, but she's no longer in the committee.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious. Just because
Yeah. Okay, and then I think,
Thank you.
Melissa, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you saying?
I was very happy with the 2 nominations that had already been placed. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to nominate Katherine, not to muddy the waters, but it'd be great to get Nature Watch. I don't know. more in the committee. Okay, so since we have more than one nominee, what's the best way to proceed?
You need a second.
Okay.
To any one of those.
Okay. So can I ask?
Have a little discussion.
You need a second first.
Okay, for
Okay.
any of the 3 to be up for consideration.
Mm-hmm.
I would second Katherine.
Who's that speaking?
Dawn Dixon.
Okay.
Katherine, are you interested in the position?
Yeah, I would be happy to help. I think Zoe and I communicate with each other a lot, so it's helpful. But I would also be thrilled for Lisa or Helen to be vice chair because I know they would both do an excellent job.
Exactly, abundance of choices. Okay, so Helen and Lisa, do we have seconds for their nomination as well?
So you have a second for Katherine. You can open it up for discussion if anybody wants to have any kind of conversation.
Okay. Okay, I open the floor if anyone wishes to discuss anything. Is everyone still interested? Oh, sorry,
Can we
Katherine.
review the duties? Can we review what vice chair means? Just to stand by if the chair is unavailable, basically.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Any backup help the chair asks you for, make her job easier.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion?
She's so funny. Wait.
Zoe?
Yes.
Maybe if people just wanted to make quick statements, because I have the pleasure of knowing all 3 of them, but maybe there are people who are on the committee who are new to the committee who don't know all 3 of them, and so maybe they might want to make a quick statement.
Sure, that's a great idea. Okay, Katherine, you want to start?
Oh, don't put me on the spot at all here. Okay. I really love this committee and a lot of the values that it holds. I also am the green team person at the elementary school, so the environmental piece is a big piece of it for me, and I do feel like I have the time to devote to supporting you, Zoe, in order to make your job a little bit easier.
Yes, thank you. Helen, would you like to make a statement as well? You're muted. How about we'll go to Lisa.
Qualify you, Helen, since you can't talk. You want to type in your comment? Type it.
Yeah. Sure. And Lisa, do you want to go while Helen? Oh,
I'm unmuted now.
yeah, you're unmuted.
Okay. Well, I guess my qualifications would be that my career was an environmental consultant, and I've worked with developers and state and federal agencies on turnkey operations for environmental permitting and all kinds of development. I'm very familiar with the development process. I have a degree in biology. This is my lifelong interest. I've been here a long time. I have a lot of history. But I also love that young folks are taking over. So I think either Katherine or Lisa would do a great job. But I think I have more of the history and a lot of knowledge, just background knowledge, to help move things forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, how about you?
I mean, I really think that everyone's well qualified, and you know, if it's a matter of understanding the code, I would be very well qualified for that. If we're focusing more on, you know, zoning or development, it's probably Helen. If it's more nature watch, I mean, we all have these great different strengths. So together we make a great committee, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, we have a lovely committee. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Okay. All right. So Sylvia, what's the best way to vote since we have numerous contenders?
You have a motion and you have a second, and you're done with discussion. So you need to call for a vote of the motion that's on the floor.
Oh, okay. The motion on the floor is for one person?
Yes, is the second that you got for Katherine.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Katherine is up first then?
Yes, that's the motion. If it dies, then you look for another second, and so on and so on.
May I ask a question? This is Rudy.
Sure, Rudy.
This is what I always dislike about nominations, because now you have 3 nominations, you do only 1 second, and then everybody votes on the first nomination, and that is going to more than likely be the winning vote, versus doing all 3 at the same time, saying, here are all 3 nominations, the second is for all 3 nominations, now let's take the vote and cast your vote in the side. And so this way, all 3 get voted on at the same time versus the committee having to pick and choose. So I'm trying to understand this process, and I have not enjoyed this process for the years that I have been on committees, and think there's a better way of doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
I also think it's fair, since we had pointed out that Zoe is married to the mayor, that also Katherine has a husband who's on city council. So that would be just kind of, you know, something else to consider in the process.
So what does the process actually say? Does it explicitly say about the second, or is that just kind of Robert Rules of Order and this is how you do it?
Well, for committees, you don't necessarily need a second, but you had 3 nominations. You can do it Rudy's way. You can do it the second way. You had a second for Katherine. Nobody else chimed up as a second for any of the others. So.
Okay. All right, Helen.
I just want to say I agree completely with Rudy. It seems very odd to do it the other way, because it's almost whoever, well, it doesn't matter. I agree with Rudy. I think the process is a little skewed.
I agree, and I second the nomination for Helen.
Can everybody who's not speaking mute themselves? Because I couldn't hear what you were saying, Katherine. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Can I second the nomination for Helen or the nominations for Helen and Lisa, and then we can just do a vote on all 3 one time?
You can do a second for one of them. Somebody has to do a second for the other.
Okay,
So I'm not so sure that's correct.
Yes, Karen.
So in Robert's rules, which I'm reading right now, elections are commonly conducted by ballot, and when you have more than one candidate. So so the second could be for the slate of 3, and then everyone can vote by chat. for who they select. I think
Okay.
that's the best way, according to what I'm reading here in Robert's rules under elections.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well,
I
unless
vote
anyone
for the
has,
slate of three. Second.
I'm Craig. Is that you? I'm sorry, I can't tell who's speaking.
Jay.
Oh, Jay, I'm sorry. Okay, what did you say? I missed what you said.
I second for the slate of three.
Perfect.
Zoe,
Yes.
can I say that I was the sponsor for this so that my intention and what I thought I had written was exactly what Rudy said. And I want every committee, and I'm the one that sent this to the mayor to say, make sure it happens by slate. So I want to tell you that was the intention of the ordinance, that we had it like by slate. It was to solve things, to Rudy's point, and that was the whole reason I brought this forward. So doing it by vote and even secret ballot in the different ways that we could do it. But we're not going to do a lot of those things now because, Zoom or GoToMeeting. But anyway, that was the intention, and I'm the sponsor of this. So Rudy's absolutely right. Thanks for talking, Rudy.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like the consensus is we're voting on one of three. The entire slate has been seconded. So it sounds like we'll just put our votes in the chat box and read the votes. Is that correct?
Perfect.
Okay.
Correct.
So
according to Robert's rules, Zoe,
yes.
So you announced the candidate that got the most votes. The candidate that receives the majority continues, and then the election becomes final when the chair announces the result of the candidates.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to announce who voted for whom also, or just the final result.
The final result.
Okay.
Who got the majority of the votes.
All right. I'm gonna get a piece of paper so I can do some math and write some notes. Okay, so please place your vote in the chat box for either Katherine, Helen, or Lisa, all of them who are wonderful and would be a great vice chair.
And make sure it goes to the organizer only so Sylvia can calculate that.
Okay, I think it doesn't look like we have a choice. I don't know.
No, you don't have a choice. It's to organizer. Okay, let me see. All right. Let's see. Sorry, it's going to take me a little bit.
No, thank you. I feel like this is one of the moments with most tension the P&E committee has ever had. Waiting to see.
Can I change my vote?
I think so. Sylvia,
Yeah.
is there a rule against that?
I haven't gotten to hers yet. Yes, she can.
Yeah.
Could be 10 votes. altogether, I believe.
Okay. Is that right?
Okay, so I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for Katherine.
Okay.
I have 1, 2, 3 votes for Lisa,
Okay.
2 votes for Helen,
Okay.
and 1 abstention.
Okay. So it sounds like our new vice chair is Katherine. Congratulations. Thank you guys all for being willing to serve. Thank you. And then we also vote on secretary?
This has been a question. Karen, I'll let you explain it. Most committees use city staff as a secretary.
Yeah, it's not required in the ordinance. It's just required for a chair and a vice chair. But if the committee wants to appoint a secretary or elect a secretary, they can also do that. And you can also have an honorary member, which can be someone who does not have to be a resident. It can be an honorary member, but they don't have a vote.
Okay, like Forrest was.
Correct.
Can Carolyn opt out if she doesn't want to be secretary?
That would be a Sylvia question, and Helen has her hand up.
Okay, Helen, I'm sorry.
Well, if Carolyn doesn't opt out, I would like to nominate her or request that the committee appoint her as secretary. She's excellent.
She's a great.
And really does keep us all together. Yeah.
Yeah, she's very good at keeping track. Katherine, were you waving your hand or? Okay, so, Carolyn, do you consent to be secretary or?
My only comment for that is that you guys are going to be doing some pretty heavy lifting, so Carolyn may need some help. And so if you guys want to do that on an as needed basis, I just come to the chair and say, Carolyn needs some help, then we can do that. You don't need to nominate a committee secretary.
Okay. Carolyn, does that work for you?
That is absolutely fine.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And is there any honorary members that you guys were going to try to appoint tonight?
Does anyone want to be an honorary member? Like, does anyone want to nominate an honorary member? I know Forrest had been an honorary member. I don't know if he continues to be one or not. Does it sort of expire?
Yes, it would expire with everything else at year end.
Okay. Would anyone like to nominate anyone? Okay.
And just FYI, you can always add new members, recommend new members for council appointment throughout the year. And if someone who has some expertise that you want to nominate as an honorary member throughout the year, you can also present them for council approval too.
Oh, that's a nice idea. Thank you. Okay. What is the next item on the agenda? I'm just seeing the goals. Or is goals next up?
That would be the next item on the agenda would be the goal.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Karen, do you want to talk about the goals, like in light of what happens with council, like as part of your liaison report?
Sure. So one of the things that council talked about in the retreat this year was setting the goals that council has set for themselves, along with the goals that we have given to the city administrator for Sylvia to work on with her team. Also for council to be focused on. And the desire is for us all to be participating. We need the committee's expertise and feedback and input to help move us forward towards the goals overall. And so the idea was to give the committee some idea of what would be in alignment with the overall goals for city council and for the city administrator, so that we're all feeding into that ultimate goal. And this isn't to curtail like free thinking or new ideas. We would like every, I think we voted on this, Sylvia, to have every committee agenda have a space for new business. So
Yes,
ideas
correct.
could come forward, which I guess that was missing somehow, that got dropped off of committees somewhere along the road. But that would be a place where new ideas could bubble up and come forward. But we still want to have all the committees helping us achieve the overall goals for our city, working together. So this is what we came up with for your consideration. And Sylvia, I don't know if you have the background you wanted to go over at this point, or on some of these issues like the master plan and comprehensive land use, all that.
Sure, because I wanted to, as you guys talk about your Saturday workshop, Carolyn, I'm going to take presenter again. It's development, the land development code. It's not an easy puzzle for folks who are just sort of diving in. And when I say we're going to have some heavy lifting to do, it's all of these components is what the committees will be touching on this year. None of them can live individually. They all require input, especially from and beginning with the Planning and Environmental Committee. Very heavy on the planning part. That leads into the environmental part, but very, very heavy on the planning part. And so by law, because we have zoning regulations, we're required to have a comprehensive plan. You guys have heard me say over and over again that we don't have quote unquote complete master plans. We have components of plans. And this is exactly what I mean. The zoning is the first piece. You can't subdivide a piece of property if the zoning and the land use isn't correct. You can't get a building permit if your subdivision, otherwise known as a plat, is incorrect. They're all building blocks on one another. And so we've talked about impervious cover. And one of the things the council's talking about is moving those variance requests to Board of Adjustment and some other dialogue that gives things an opportunity to be aired longer, more public, more transparent, more public hearings to allow for more input. And so this is a document, it's in your materials section here in GoToMeeting. And the very, very, very first topic, if we were to have a Saturday session, the very, very first topic I would talk about, as I was telling Karen, is I'd be happy if we could agree on the preamble to a good comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan that we have on our site right now, let me see if I can open it up, is about 2 paragraphs long. But the comprehensive plan is essentially the preamble to our Constitution. It is the preamble that describes what we want to become when we grow up, what we want to become when, God forbid, somebody sues us and they say, well, they're being unfair. The first place we always fall to is the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan says Sunset Valley, for example, is a rural community, and we value our open space. We have demographics of such, and therefore, because we sit over the aquifer, because we value water protection, because we value open space, therefore our density limits are X, therefore our open space requirements are Y. And when somebody asks me why are our streets built the way they are, I say, well, because our comprehensive plan says we are a rural community and therefore our street widths are supposed to be this, or, it just leads to everything. And right now, what we have, Carolyn, can you do me a favor and search for that while I'm talking? Right now, what we have pieces of it. We don't have complete plans that tie together. The last time the comprehensive plan was updated was 2011. So it's obviously time to take a look at it.
Okay.
Now, the code says the city may adopt, but then when you go to zone, it says your zoning must match your comprehensive plan. So it's a may, but it's a shall, or it's a shall, but it's a may. So just nuances like that within the code that I really want to dive into. And our first Saturday session really, I believe, would be talking about what it is we really want Sunset Valley to be from a land use perspective, from a parks perspective, from a streets perspective, all of those things that would help us develop that preamble. And then we jump into things like land use, things like zoning and open space and landscaping. And there are other things that have to be amended in the code. Right now we have watershed under subdivision. I'm a little bit confused about impervious cover and open space here, because to me, a third party who hasn't lived here long, we confuse open space with impervious cover. To me, it feels the residents value open space. They don't want to see a concrete jungle. Yes, we must protect the water supply, but more importantly, our setbacks are large. We want to have that rural feeling. We want to have trees. We want to have all of those things. Open space is governed in zoning. And so if there's a setback challenge, for example, Board of Adjustment and Zoning Commission hear those things. Right now, the way watershed is written into the code, we say we have watershed and impervious cover regulations because we need to protect the code, and therefore the limits are XYZ. Well, the limits are XYZ, but there's so much technology out there rapidly changing that somebody could have multiple layers of what appear to be a concrete jungle and still not shed into any of the watersheds, still handle it all on site. So in my mind, we've got to educate and distinguish what those two things are. Again, what do we really want to be when we grow up, right? What do we want to see our community morph into? And we need to get a better handle on that so that we can write the codes so that they match that, and we're not consistently in this variance cycle. That's a very high level of what a Saturday would look like.
Sylvia, I have the master plan ready to look at if you want me to take over and pull that up real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. The comp plan, you mean the April 11th comp plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm giving it back to you. So if you scroll to page 3, I believe, 4. So there's some conflicting language here. So and Karen was the first one that was like, wait, what does it mean? A master plan is a component of a comprehensive plan. A master plan does not replace a comprehensive plan. That's the first thing. And scroll down a little bit to section 102. This is that preamble. Up a little bit. You went too far. Right there. This is the preamble I'm talking about. The elements of the comprehensive plan should say what our demographics are, what our populations are, what we're anticipating we're going to morph into, why we want to protect what we look like, why open spaces are important to us, why our economic engines should be modeled in a certain manner, why, because that builds the foundation for all of the other codes. And if you can see here, this is our quote unquote preamble here. It's not very deep. So we've got to grow this a little bit. Okay. That's what a Saturday would look like.
Sylvia, my computer was having problems, so I had to relaunch it. So I missed what you said about Saturdays. I know we were talking about possibly doing a work day in January. Did you say more about Saturdays?
Yeah, I said, well, when I was talking to Karen and Carolyn earlier, I said, I foresee a lot of more Saturdays than one Saturday. And okay. I think the very first Saturday really has to be this preamble to the comprehensive plan. Really, what is it that we're trying to be when we grow up? And then that has to make its way around the committees, because it has a budget impact, it has a public works impact. it has a land use impact, it has watershed impact. I mean, it's a domino effect. So it's very hard to work in isolation, but just giving me at least a place to start with input from the residents, that's going to be probably the hardest work that we have to do in this first Saturday.
Okay.
This is Jay. I would like for all of us to get as educated as we can before we start bringing in residents' comments so that we actually can understand what you're saying and have a way to respond. And part of that information packet, I would like to request if there is a UDA with a TCEQ that was part of the Weaver development, I would like to see that. And I would also like to see the history of the impervious cover in Old Town as it changed from probably not restricted to 40 something to 18. So I want to see that along with that. I think all of that is important.
Okay.
Jay, what does UDA stand for? Is that the acronym?
Unified Development Agreement, and that's
okay.
probably not the term that the TCEQ would use, but it's since Sunset Valley doesn't have the equal position that Austin does, I assume that TCEQ was the governing body when that got developed, the Weaver Tract.
I'd also like to add something to that information pack. These impervious cover guidelines were created and drafted by an expert. And as far as I know, that we hired that exact same expert in our legal case against City of Austin and the impervious cover limits. And I think that, I mean, I wasn't here back in the day when we set our impervious cover guidelines, but from what I remember from that document that was a part of that hearing, the requirement set was a little bit higher for the commercial zone than we currently allow. I believe it was something around 38 or 40%, and we currently allow 18%. And the across the board requirements for residential was around 18%, and we have currently varying maximum impervious cover limits depending on if you're in a water quality transition zone or a floodplain or so I'd like to look at those original documents where we came up with those guidelines and just try to make sense of it.
Okay, well, it'd be great to have a document that sort of explained that, kind of the history and kind of, because, you know, the whole city, it's a trade-off between the natural and the developed area and how that all works out in a total impervious cover. So if we're looking for X, we look at all of the developed areas and consider what their impervious covers are and see if that matches up with the overall city limits, the circle of property.
Yeah,
and that's
not
why.
I'm sorry.
Yes. No, that's us done.
Oh, and it's not just, truly, it's not just the number. It is also, there's going to be some geology that's going to be involved. Obviously,
oh, absolutely.
yeah, in
I
some
understand
areas,
there's features, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I've gotten a lot of requests for give me a total number, and I'm like, yeah, because there's areas that water just completely disappears quickly.
Right, I understand it's complicated. So as much as we can, I'd really be interested to be able to look at that information and try to really understand what the overall water quality quantity issues are with the city. The other thing is I'd like to better understand how we manage floodplain, floodway issues with our residential properties and how we deal with those problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Zoe?
Yeah, that's great input. Thank you. Melissa, were you saying something?
Yes, please. It seems to me like what we're doing is sort of a stage charrette. And I want to make sure that not only is it P&E, but that everybody in the city can interface with this. And it's a very complicated process with a lot of terms that the general public isn't going to be familiar with. And so what I'd like to see us do is, as we tackle each section, that we do enough education in our backup material that we're defining terms so that other people can step into our process if they want to listen, because I think there are going to be a lot of people who might want to do that. And this will also set up later for how we describe how we transform our city, because I really don't think that we're growing up. I think we're a fairly mature place, but I think we may want to be choosing to transform in certain ways. And only when we have good definition of the topics that we're talking about and the terms that we're using, do I think we can all participate in that in the way that we want to transform our city. So that's because we are a very mature place with people who've lived here a really long time, and so it's not like people haven't been able to do these things and develop this town before. We've done it one time, and we're all reaping the benefits from the hard work that all those people used when they developed this town. But it will redevelop, and we want to talk about in good ways that are accessible to everyone how we might choose to do that. And so I want to just make sure we're real clear in our terms, and that we almost used a stage charrette system, and that's just like where everybody can have all the information and be able to put their input in. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
That was my point about the heavy lifting. That was my point about Carolyn's not going to be able to do it all. This committee is going to be doing some very, very heavy lifting.
I appreciate that, but I know we're all approaching this from different positions. Like, I have a lot of interest in planning, but I have no institutional knowledge or anything. So the educational part of it's going to be really important for people like me.
And me too, on the historical.
Okay. Helen?
Just so you guys know, I found the name of the report that the City of Sunset Valley paid for to have done, and it's called The Effects of Impervious Cover Limits to Improve Water Quality. This was a study that was done January 2003 and submitted to the City of Sunset Valley. It is a very large document, and the doctor, PhD, is D. Lauren Ross, who reported it. And I believe a lot of our code is based on some of her recommendations. And so we should probably all have a copy of that report.
Lisa, do you want to send an email to people in the committee? I think, or if you send it to me, I can send it out or whatever.
I can give you a copy of what it's called in the front page of the report, but otherwise I would have to scan the whole report.
Oh, I thought maybe you had a PDF or something.
Oh,
okay.
No, I just found the name of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Helen, Catherine, I know both of you had your hand raised. Helen, you want to go? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and we've been talking quite a bit about the history of impervious cover and land use, and all this is going to be very, very important in moving us forward so that we can continue to be a viable small community and still have the economic resources that we need. One of the things that we need to look at besides the history of impervious cover is that, and recently there have been other studies, science doesn't sit still, it moves forward. And there are there are new studies now that look at impervious cover, catchment basements. In the past, there's been a lot of talk about taking floodwater and getting it off into the creeks so they can flow through. Now they're saying that it's much better for the water to be retained on site because it needs to sink into the ground and come out naturally in the karst aquifer that we have, and karst aquifer we probably ought to learn about. So what we believed 10 or 15 years ago is not necessarily what science has brought us to now. So I think we need to really look at those things and not just the history as well, but the current studies.
Amen.
Good point. Yeah. Okay, Catherine, I know you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to take a step back just to make sure I'm wrapping my head around the proposed process that we're looking at here. So we are talking about meeting on Saturday, January 23rd, specifically just to work on the preamble and just with our committee only. Is that correct?
It's a little bit more than that. It's at least the beginning of an education. We may not come back with the preamble, but it's an opportunity for the committee to ask questions about the development process.
Okay, and so are other committees also starting to take a look at this at the same time, or will we have a look and then pass on through other committees?
You're going to have a look first because you're the building block. But it is going to continue to be referenced and built upon, because when Public Works starts their work, right, they're going to be working on the current and the future land use map. And so if there's any discussion about tweaking, any discussion about changing at this committee level, then obviously that communication sideways is going to be really critical for the liaisons to be in step with one another.
Okay. And then my next question was, at what point do residents get to start being involved in helping shape this?
That's going to be a committee driver when we feel comfortable enough that we understand it, and we feel comfortable enough that we can each act as an ombudsman to what we're trying to develop and become, or at least be able to answer rational questions or questions that are posed. That's going to be up to the committee. The committee is going to drive it. We're not in a lot of hurry. Things like this aren't going to happen overnight. I anticipate this to be a year-long plus process.
Okay, great. And so the January 23rd session is really more of informational for all of us to kind of get our next degree in the world of the land development code.
Yes, and to Jay's point, there's a lot of information that you guys need before then. And so I just learned about your Saturday plans. So I have not begun to put that together. What the document that is in your process is just my very high level. Here we are, here's the deep end of the pool. And I purposely covered zoning blue because that is the deepest end of the pool. That is the one that gets us to the very end, to where a building permit can be issued and a certificate of occupancy had and economic development happening. But the deepest end of the pool is the zoning.
So what if at that January 23rd meeting, we start just as kind of like, it's following up on a little bit about everybody, having more educational information about the development process, get everybody familiarized with the vocabulary that's used, the different parts of the development, and kind of just lay a bunch of stuff out so that people can start to get familiarized with what it is we're talking about. Because I think it's a big topic, and I think it just needs a lot of just familiarizing yourself with what the setbacks are, what does that mean, and everything like that.
Okay. And it'll be recorded for people who can't make it on Saturday, I'm sure. Okay.
I'm wondering if, along with that list of the documents, the backup history that Jay brought up, the current comprehensive plan that's up on the screen, I don't know if everybody found that. I had to ask Matt for help finding it because it's buried in the website. So that could be in a packet. And do we have a page on OpenGov like the one that CED had put together? That page where we can dump all this?
We can absolutely put one together. Carolyn, can you bring up OpenGov and show them what CED's page looks like? Because we are going to create one for you guys that is very similar.
start
That would
putting all
be wonderful.
in one place.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Do you want me to bring that up, Carolyn, or will you?
I mute myself so that you can't hear me typing. Yeah, I'm gonna let you put it up, but you can. And so I talk, and you guys just can't hear me. Oh, I'm
Okay.
making the. Yeah.
Let me pull it up real quick.
Oh, I'd like to add, I'm not sure if this is the document that Karen was referencing. It's called Water Quality Protection Program. Carolyn, it's a document, I believe that you were part of it. It goes through all the land management program and the different types of protected land that we have.
No, the one Karen's talking about is specifically called a comprehensive plan.
Oh, the comprehensive plan. Okay.
Mhm.
There's a document called Water Quality Protection Program. I'll just include it on this email with the other info I have.
Mhm.
It goes through like all the restoration that we do, the invasive species removal, wildlife management, urban forest management, water quality infrastructure, all that.
Yep. So this is the page that CED has developed. Matt working with CED. They asked for certain things to be updated. They asked for their committee to handle things a certain way. So they have a page. We keep the sales tax. The report for January is already up. There are links to Austin, Travis County, Cap Metro, AISD, what's happening in Sunset Valley, an overview of revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So we would develop a page similar to this for planning and environmental. And, there'd be obviously some pictures about the development process. And then I envision us to say something like, we are here, and then show what we're working on for that particular month and in the next months. And anybody who has a question as to where we are and what are we talking about, and do I need to join the February meeting or do I need to go to that Saturday meeting, we'll be able to see that information. And any links to like the comp plan or the information Jay's requesting would all be available.
That sounds great.
It's a little overwhelming, I'm sorry.
But it would be lovely to have it all in one place, because I've spent hours digging through documents. I know Lisa has too, just trying to put all the pieces together and see where we really are.
Yeah.
So this would be great. Thank you.
It would be really nice to have them.
So then perhaps for the 23rd meeting, I'm just kind of writing some notes about what it is we're going to be looking at. It's starting that page basically, and then we can start going over and saying, here's the documents that are here, this is what they're for, and kind of just familiarizing the whole committee with those.
Yeah, we'll be going over some definitions, and we'll be going over what a standard development process looks like in the local government code, and then what applies to Sunset Valley.
Sounds good.
And is there a time frame? We didn't set a time for the January 23rd meeting.
Does anyone want to make a proposal? Like, I was assuming, I know when we first started talking about it, it sounded like we were going to actually go out and see some of the trails. So I was thinking kind of like a 9 to 12 thing, but I'm not sure what everyone's availability is like.
I'm not going to be in town on the 23rd. I'm going to be in the BVIs.
Morning is best for me, but I'm flexible.
The 23rd is my grandson's 5th birthday. I really don't want to be here. Are we thinking about doing a Zoom meeting, or are we thinking about doing an in-person meeting?
Well, I was only thinking in person if we were going to be outside on the trails. Otherwise, I think a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
I mean, because it sounds like we're going to be going over documents and information and stuff. It doesn't really lend itself to being outside, I assume.
No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think being outside will make it more fun.
I would like to request that we get as much base information together before we meet. And I'm flexible on the date. I would prefer early as possible on whatever day that we do select.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm going to be a little bit different. Uh-oh.
You're
Can you
unmuted.
still hear me? It says push to desktop. What's going on? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Saturday mornings are bad for me. I have a standing engagement, but I could stop at 10 to do this. And it's not every single Saturday, and I have no idea what the schedule is.
Is 2 weeks enough time to get together all the documents we need and all of the homework we have to do before this meeting?
That's going to be tough.
It sounds like it might be a lot.
I would propose the 30th.
The 30th? Does like staff have any constraints with the 30th work, or?
That works better for me
And your grandson?
So,
and my grandson.
so maybe we can provide documents when they are available so that we don't have to rush to read them at the last minute, but we can read them as they're available.
For sure,
yeah.
that page will be up over the weekend with all of the links that we do have already, like the comp plan and the zoning ordinance and the current and future land use map and some definitions. That page will be up before the weekend is over. The Weaver stuff, that's going to be a little bit of a deeper dive. I asked Carolyn today to tell me about how long that would take, and that's a good several weeks out. So we may not have all of the Weaver information by that point, but we would certainly have the spine of the beginnings of the conversation.
I'm a little curious why the city doesn't have the Weaver information available already, since that was such a critical document.
I would take a picture of what the offices look like after the move, but you'd be really disappointed.
Okay.
And we don't have a lot of things in digital format. Things are still in paper. So some is on site, some is off site. I just have to find it.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, if I understand correctly, it sounds like the first session is going to be kind of a holistic look at everything and a talk about some of the history. And that's really where we're going to begin.
I can't really give a whole lot of history. I'm going to rely on the members that have been here for so long. What I'm going to hopefully talk about is explain why things are supposed to be the way they are, because the law says they're like that. And when we want to deviate from that, what the city's rights are to do that, and what role you play, and what role zoning commission plays, and what role the council plays.
Okay.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think this is a series of meetings. It's not just, I mean, we're going to grow and everybody's going to learn along the way. It's not just, this is just the starting block.
Okay. I saw hands raised. So I saw Catherine and then Alice. Catherine?
Yeah, just so, again, sorry, trying to understand, and also for newer members, this is going to be considered a meeting, correct? So that the public will, all of the residents will know that we are meeting, they will know what we're meeting about, and they will be able to listen to the meeting. Is that all correct? Because
Yes.
we will have a quorum, so.
Yes,
Absolutely.
okay.
And
okay, Alice?
I was going to say also that if we are recording them, anyone who cannot attend, especially since we're going to be kind of learning, we could just go back and watch them. I plan to attend, but I think that that's valuable. And I'm really happy we're going to have like a shared drive of some sort so that we can go in and study at our own pace, since a lot of us are busy. So I'm excited to learn more about all of this, and I feel like it is going to be a very deep dive for us to, we kind of have to go backwards to be able to go forward in our community. Some of you have been here for a very long time, and that's amazing, and we will be counting on you guys to give us some of the history and fill in some of those holes. But, you know, we really need that history to move forward in a positive way, I think.
All right. Sounds good.
And
are we looking to?
hopefully the education gives you floaties. I mean, it is, again, this is not going to be an overnight thing. It's really my intent to only move as fast as you guys can absorb the information, because it's not going to do me any good when we get to the point of, okay, well, let's look at our land use, and you guys are looking at me like, what? Why is that street supposed to be there? What are you talking about?
Okay.
Asking for right of way. So
And
It sounds like,
Carolyn,
go ahead.
Did you say the information gives us floaties?
yes. Okay, we keep referencing
So-
deep dive, so.
I'm gonna adopt that. I love it.
Carolyn, I just thought you were talking and then you got interrupted. So I just want to make sure we went back to what you were saying. That's all.
I just wanted to confirm. So it sounded like you're switching to January 30th, and are we looking at like a 10 to 12:30 kind of thing, or?
That's fine for me. What do you guys think? I see a thumbs up. Okay. A couple of thumbs
early
up.
as possible for me. So what everybody can work out.
What does early
as
mean?
Oh, my early is too early, probably. But
Okay, because my early is 10. Maybe that's just me.
My
And it
early's
is.
5 as opposed to 5:30.
I don't speak English before 10.
I do.
Okay, so
Get
10
up
to
at 5:30 to
12:30.
make coffee. So
Would you
10 to
guys
12:30.
be agreeable 10 to 1? Just 3
10 to
hours?
1,
Yeah.
3 hours, please. I don't think we can do it for
All
less
right.
than that. I was
Yeah.
trying to get unmuted and had my hand raised, but it's
I
not
got
working.
you, Kelly, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Karen. As far as the history of the Weaver tract, there are enough people, I think, who were on the council when all that was going on that we can probably do some interviews and at least get that history, and they might even have documents in their possession. So we can look. I can help look for that.
Who is that? Who has
That
the
was-
documents in their possession?
Pardon me?
Who would have documents in their possession?
It's possible.
No,
But
she
if
was
I-
asking who,
Who?
Helen?
Who? I'll check. Let me ask. I can get some. I'll check with some former council members.
And I just want to point out there are people like me who don't understand really the significance of the Weaver tract or why we're talking about it. Like I don't know any Sunset Valley history, so some of us will need a lot more explanation than others, probably.
Yeah, we'll work on bringing everybody up to speed on what that is, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys who are like, what is Weaver and what is the settlement? Yeah, we'll get everybody up to speed on that in the documents and get information.
Perfect. So I'm lost. Where are we in the agenda? Oh, sorry, someone was speaking.
it's Jay. I was just, do we know whether or not the TCEQ was involved in a comprehensive agreement at the time when the Weaver tract was developed?
I don't believe it was a TCQ agreement. I believe it was a council, I think it was a court agreement between the parties. I don't believe it was a TCQ agreement.
Who was the controlling entity in terms of water quality and water quantity issues? Because normally that would.
Yeah, that was TCQ at that point, but I think what you were asking for was how we ended up with that open space. What led to the court decision that gave the Weavers the ability to grant us that to be able to get to an impervious cover number? Is that not what you're asking?
It sort of is. I mean, I don't know the process specifically for this, but my guess was only a guess, and that the Weaver sold it to a developer. The developer produced an overall site plan proposal, and it had to go through TCEQ in terms of getting to an overall impervious cover water quality situation, which obviously would consider karst features, recharge, then also flood related issues. And I would just, if that document exists, I would like to see it.
Okay, I will, I'll try to find whatever we can find.
Okay.
All right. Helen, I think you have your hand up.
Never mind. I'm going to do my own. I'm going to check on things myself. It was too long ago, so I don't want to say things that I might regret later. I just don't remember that well.
I'm grateful to all the people with all this information. Lisa, I see you have your hand up.
Wouldn't any agreement exist at the Travis County records as the land restriction on the deed of the land?
That's a good question. Here lately, we've tried to find some restrictive covenants and we can't find them. And they should have been recorded at Travis County.
Okay, Helen, is that why you're shaking your head now? Okay, yes. Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to discuss? Do we need to look at the rest of the goals?
Oh, Carolyn, let me hand it back to you.
I would like to just say that the rest of the goals are the most important thing, and what feeds into that and makes them possible is looking at all of these base documents, which are potentially legally binding, which is what we should operate by. And ultimately, we should make the most of our natural habitat and the things that make Sunset Valley special.
Yeah, definitely.
But we need to be able to stand behind those rules with commercial and even residential residents, to know that what we're doing we can stand behind without any concerns about pushback from anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we need a good foundation.
Carolyn, can you scroll up to the, there you go, thanks. So just FYI, guys, this number 4 is on several committees' documents, and it's mainly to be a placeholder for collaboration between the different committees. And the ideas you see here, like pool and bike track and benches and all of that, those were comments and suggestions that came through OpenGov when we asked for citizen input. So we didn't want to lose that. And so it's on several committees, and just wanted to keep that alive and let you know where that came from.
That's one of the ones I'm most excited about. My children and my neighbors have been petitioning for a pool for years. So.
If we had a community pool, we wouldn't all be getting pools.
That's true.
I'm putting one in myself because I didn't think there was any chance we'd actually get one ever.
The thing that's held that back is that we can't make it private. It would be open to the public because it would be a public. And so people have, that was one of the pieces that people were talking about.
Yes, I wanted to, I'm agreeing with Karen. That was a big issue. People did want pools, and they want other things like soccer fields. We had a great place for a soccer field. But what it came down to is that we want them, but we don't want to share them with the outside. So, and I think we're going to get stuck right back with that again. I don't think that that's changed. And not that it needs to change. We are who we are. And we're too small, really, to support a municipal pool for 50,000 neighbors around us. So, yeah. So when we're looking at those kinds of wonderful amenities, that is going to be something that's going to be right up in the forefront as to whether the citizens are going to want to share.
And you may have said this, but I wish that we could work something out with Berger to be able to use their facilities in a way that made sense for Sunset Valley, since they have some of that already.
And because they're talking about redeveloping, I mean, I think the next bond is going to include a burger center. So I think that whole area is ripe for development. And if we could collaborate with AASD, it could be a really wonderful part of the city.
I would also want to add this to the list and it may already be there, may already be ongoing, but integration and discussion with the Bywick Crown Trail, which is, supposed to be running through the city through Brody, but I think there's opportunity there in terms of an amenity as well as some commercial activity.
I love that. That's great. Helen, did I see you have your hand raised?
Oh, just that we have, there's been a lot of communication with AISD over the years, and sometimes they're very supportive and sometimes not. But basically, it's always come down to that we could do things. For years, we've had a plan, and Carolyn could talk to this, of having like a hiking trail or a fitness trail that goes all the way around Tony Burger Center with all the different stations. And it's just always comes down to money. We never are able to budget the money to put in these kinds of things. And if we could get AISD to actually fund them, that would be wonderful. But that's someone else's job to work that out.
Yeah, they're probably, we kind of already do have a trail that goes around.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have any of the amenities that provide that stop and do a little bit of exercise.
And it's not great around, like, the development is at 4015 South Lamar. Like, it's,
yeah, when
there's
you come
a lot
back
of
on
room.
290.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I have a question for Sylvia. As far as item number 4 on the goals, is there anything that precludes the city from actually charging for any of these ideas? Like
charging residents?
Charging an entrance fee or charging a rental fee or any of that?
Nope. You just can't charge. You just can't charge a different rate because somebody's not a resident.
So we have friends in Travis country, and I wonder, like, why could we not have a private pool, or why could we not have a nonprofit not that I want to exclude people, but why is that not even a possibility? Alice, I see you raising your hand.
They are an HOA and we are a city.
Okay.
We are a public city, right? And they are a bought-in community where they pay dues every month, and those are part of the amenities of that homeowners association.
Can the city not have a nonprofit or a club that has a pool that has fees or like a membership? Okay, Helen?
Not if you built the pool with public funds. You can't exclude. Okay. Yeah, you can't exclude members of the. You can charge a fee, absolutely.
Okay.
You just can't exclude.
Got it, Helen.
Okay, the city of Rollingwood, I believe, and someone should check me on this. They have a swimming pool and they have a park, and the way that they got around that was that the park and the swimming pool there, I don't know how it was built, but it's actually was turned over to the residents of the city so that it sort of belongs to them, and therefore I can't and you can't go into their swimming pool because it's not actually owned by the city of Rollingwood. They somehow got it in there but turned it over to the residents, and so it's managed by them. And I think that might be a way around that, but I'm not sure about that, if somebody could confirm it.
Okay.
I think you're right, Helen. It was a private development in the beginning, which required membership.
Okay.
And only Rollingwood residents can be members. Is that correct, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least when I was that way for 20 years.
Oh, right. You were there.
Okay, I saw a few people with hands raised. Melissa, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I do want to point out that there is actually a price difference at Barton Springs Pool between residents and non-residents, because I know that I think if I go there, it's $8 because I live in Sunset Valley. And so non-residents of the city of Austin actually pay a higher fee than residents. And so we can charge different fees because Barton Springs does. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Katherine?
I wanted to ask what happens to some of the items that had to kind of be put on hold or tabled that were on our agenda from last year. One in particular that I've thought a lot about, just because residents in my neighborhood talk about it, is a trail that connects from the end of Reese to some of the other parts of our trails. I know that was, I think, an item, kind of in our plans last year that had to be cut because of funding issues. But I hope those all don't just get lost.
And they don't necessarily have to get lost, right, Carolyn? I mean, we still have our or do we start over with new priorities as a new committee? This is like the first time things have ever been so like strict, I guess, where things haven't just rolled over.
That could fall into, so a goal basically, because we're looking at two objectives basically. We have this one up here, which is land development code and master plan revisions. And then we come down here to objective 2, which is trails and green space management. So the things that Katherine was talking about right there fall into that trails master plan and changes needed to address that. And also kind of what Jay was talking about, that visitor access and amenities. And I was just making a note here, we talked about the integration of the Violet Crown Trail, which also then falls back into master planning as well, because this is one of the plans for the city. But yeah, it's, there's a lot of discussion on trail access and how people access the trails and where people access the trails and what amenities. Like I had a resident who called me, I think yesterday, and was like, why do we not have trash cans at the trail so people can drop their trash there? Because they're seeing trash, people have dropped trash other places. So there's those kind of things that the committee could, as part of y'all's ongoing project, you could have, an agenda with one item from objective 1 and one item from objective 2, and kind of just keep working on each one of those.
So this is Lucy. Of course, you realize that if you develop a trail access from the end of Reese, then you'll have the same problems that we have at the end of Lone Oak, where it wasn't supposed to be a trailhead, and now we have people parking and leaving trash and not being, it's really affecting the people who live on the end of that street. So, the same thing will happen. And so some of the people on Reese probably don't want that live down there at the end. So
I wasn't bringing it up really as a point to debate right now. I was just curious more about all of the items that we had to table last year because of the budget. And I just didn't want those to get lost. Of course, there will be people with varying opinions on the trails and on every other thing.
Completely, Katherine. We don't want the problem at the end of Lone Oak to get lost either. It was essentially put aside and nothing has been resolved. So all those things would go into management of the green space. So.
Yeah, so Katherine, what I would say about that, and to Zoe's strict comment, it is very difficult to move forward when everybody's working on their own things, and then we get a very difficult council agenda built that doesn't necessarily have full support. So if there are items that you want to bring here, then my suggestion is to work through your liaison, and that's Karen, not Carolyn, Karen, because Karen's in contact with the council as to what those calendars look like, what the agendas are looking like, and where the council is moving. And so I would hate for us to waste valuable volunteer time when something's not going to go anywhere because something else has risen to the top. That's not to say the items aren't important. That's not to say they don't need to be revisited. That's just to say, really, 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 you need to work closely with Karen.
And Katherine, also to your point, that's the reason the uplands isn't explicitly listed as a goal, because there wasn't budget allotment because of COVID, we took a lot of stuff out of the budget, and the only thing really in there explicitly is the Upper Cougar Creek development. So that is why it is specifically listed, and lots of other things are not. Lisa, I know I saw you raise your hand. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering when we're getting the report back for Upper Cougar Creek, and will that be available before the 30th meeting? The environmental study.
Yes, we are going to have there should be no, it may not be available by the 30th. We're having it might be, because it's slated for discussion for the February 2nd council agenda. So that means the agenda will be published on the 28th. That means, yes, it'll be ready for the 30th.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Alice, did you have your hand raised earlier? Did you want to say something?
I did, but I just wanted to say that the public pools charge various amounts. That was already said.
Well, thank you. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
I do. This is Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
I would like to propose that we kind of start out trying to develop a mission statement for this committee, and then work down in the granular level using the information that we have on how to achieve that in a balanced way for all of our stakeholders. So that's something maybe we can look forward to for our 30th meeting.
That's what it sounds like. That's a good point. Okay, Melissa and Helen, I see you guys have your hands up. Melissa?
I'm just curious about the status, since you're talking about the south end of Reese, what the north end of Reese is. That reminded me, because it seems to have been turned into a road, and it's getting graveled over and getting normal use as if it's a road. And I'm just curious, is it now getting turned into a road, or is it part of our trail space?
That's a road. I think it's a road. It's just not paved.
Okay, well, it's being paved right now by, I would say, Austin Montessori. They're putting down gravel, and they're using it as a road. And if we don't want it to be a road, and we're counting it as green space, which I always used to think it was, it would be good to know that. But if people don't know, it's being graveled. So I'll just put that out there. Thank you.
I realized it was a road when we were doing the study of the uplands, because I was thinking of traffic flow. As far as I know, it's considered a road. Sylvia, correct me if I'm wrong.
No clue without a map.
Okay, yeah, so that part of Reese is right of way. It's not necessarily green space, but we will look at what's going on with Austin Montessori School.
Okay, and Helen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if why we don't have Nature Watch, excuse me, as one of our objectives, because are we sanctioned by the council? Are we moving forward with Nature Watch? But we don't mention anything in this document about Nature Watch. And the other comment is that I know that we want to move forward with the Cougar Creek developing or enhancing, but it seems like until we get answers from Ampersand and there's some idea of how we're moving forward with the commercial development, we don't really know what would be the best use of Cougar Creek, and why start spending money on that when we don't know what we're doing. That's it. Thanks.
So I think, so Carolyn was showing developing an environmental education program under Objective 2. Like, I think
Nature Watch? Is that going to be
Nature Watch feeds into that, yeah.
Fine. I don't think of it as an environmental education program, but if that's where it fits, that works for me.
Okay.
Well, isn't Nature Watch being more run by residents and volunteers than staff?
I don't think it's clear yet, Sylvia, what's happening. We have the kind of tacit agreement from council to move forward with it, and we're doing that, but and we have no budget So I don't know. It'd be nice to know if we had some clear direction from the council as to what we are doing and what we can do.
I actually felt like it was clear that we were allowed to move forward and that it's a volunteer group, so it doesn't really require a lot of like council direction.
That was my understanding as well. Like I thought like it's been before council twice with no pushback, maybe no clear stamp of approval either. But I mean, I thought we were talking about like potentially having participants sign a waiver, and we thought that was like we were good to go.
Yeah, I think that's what we were asking legal to come up with the indemnity.
Yes.
Same thing for any of the volunteers that work with the police department as a volunteer. So we had a consistent waiver that people signed, volunteers signed. But as far as I remember, council was thought it was a great idea and that it would be a volunteer program.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I already have the waiver too, because Carolyn helped me with that.
Oh, wonderful. So we've been discussing goals for a while. Are we ready to move on to the next item, or is there anything more that we need to discuss or add to the goals? Okay, Lisa, are you raising your hand?
I was just curious if we could possibly like remove things from our goals that we don't have budgeted. We don't have budgets for, because I could see us dreaming of a pool, or, you know, thinking of all these wonderful things. And I mean, we could brainstorm all day for great ideas, but it would really take a lot of time on this committee to flesh those ideas out. And I mean, I just would really love to be able to streamline. We have a lot on our plate.
I think like Karen said, it was basically like an open door for collaboration between the committees. I don't know. I love the idea of like cross committee communication and working on ideas that benefit all the residents. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's council's intention to have some workshops where the committees can work together with council. And I think I wouldn't say that you have to be limited, especially with the scope of what this is. This is big picture, that you shouldn't be limited to by this year's budget. And you shouldn't be limited to being creative in your thinking. You know, I think we want to hear what do our citizens want? What do we, doesn't mean if we don't have the budget this year that it's not possible sometime. That's what the master plan is all about, right? What do we want it to look like? What do we want redevelopment to look like? What do we value? Those kinds of things.
I think the pool is a good example. If we have property that could be available for facility, which might include other things other than a pool, and we can actually find a private partner to do that work, that might make sense, so that we're not spending money, we're providing the property, they operate it, they're responsible for maintaining it, and really all we're doing is providing the property that we're not maybe optimizing.
For me, I see it as kind of integral to the planning discussion too. I mean, like Karen is saying, like what do we value in our city? What do we want for our city? How do we want to transform and develop and redevelop?
How many neighbors and city members would be willing to even contribute to a pool? I mean, I'm in the process of building my own pool right now. You know how much that costs? It's crazy. So,
yeah.
You know, but the reason I'm doing it is because I felt like by the time Sunset Valley gets around to it, I won't have kids at home anymore.
That is very likely true.
If we want to dream big, I don't think it's a bad idea to have these things on the agenda, and maybe we say it's a 3-5 year plan, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe it isn't in time for my kids, but it would be in time for Catherine's or yours, Zoe. And so, you know, it's okay for us to make a legacy that lives on beyond what, you know, our immediate needs are, but what do the residents and stakeholders of the city want? And that's, you know, once we have some of these ideas, we could actually, and we have a clear vision, maybe we could then poll the city and see what do they want us to focus on. And we just start to ask to get creative on how to figure out if we don't want to share. We want it to be somewhat private for residents, then we figure out a way to do it. There are ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of getting creative with our thinking and, seeing the cities that have done it before us or the communities that have made it happen. So I don't want to cut things out just because we're in a budget crunch right now.
But am I to understand then that Karen is saying we're going to be collectively brainstorming with different committees in these kind of offsites or whatever special brainstorming days, and that our goals can align with just collaborating with the other committees, and we don't spend a lot of time on these machinations when it does seem like even just land development code, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. And just a reminder, that number 4, as I explained, that's your citizens' input. Those were ideas that came forward from our residents. So we want to keep those forward so we don't ask our residents what they think or what their ideas are, and then we don't do anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So once they're vetted by committees and there's some collaboration on what makes sense that the committees feel like might be a good direction, then we can put that out to the residents and get even more feedback. But these are suggestions that came from the residents. It doesn't mean that we're going to do a pool versus a tennis court versus a soccer field. It's just ideas that are percolating.
Awesome. Okay. So it sounds like we're in agreement about that. Are we ready to move on to, I don't know if there's anything else we need to discuss about the work session, but did anybody have anything they wanted to add to the goals discussion before we move on to the next item? Okay. I don't see anybody with their hands up or anything. Okay. Is there anything more that we need to discuss about the work session? It sounds like we're doing it on the 30th from 10 to 12:30. We'll have some documents to review before then. Helen, were you?
I believe it was 10 to 1, not 10 to
Oh, yes, 10
12:30.
to 1. Yeah, you're right. So are we ready to move on to new business, or is there anything else we need to discuss before we move on?
Ready to move on.
Okay. Any new business? I mean, it sounds like Nature Watch should be new business or to be added to the agenda for next time, or I'm not sure. I'm not really clear how the goals and objectives are going to shape the agendas of our future meetings.
I'm not clear what Nature Watch is, so maybe I can get a quick education.
So Nature Watch, we talked about it a little. I think there was a program years ago, Sunset Valley Conservation Rangers, and then we talked about kind of reviving it as a volunteer program for citizens to help maintain trails, maybe do some education and outreach, learn about the environment of Sunset Valley. So we talked about dividing the city up into regions and having coordinators in each region and some volunteers to do cleanups in different areas of the city. So we just it's kind of a fledgling program. We are hoping to get started soon. We tried to do something late last year, but it was a little too rushed. So I think we're going to probably be looking at something in first quarter, some kind of trail cleanup.
So it's not structured yet. I think we should put that on the top of the list for our Saturday meeting on the 30th to try to better define what that is.
I actually think it is structured. Helen and Zoe and I have been working on it for a little while, but if we want to put it on the agenda, one of us, I'm sure, could do a presentation, especially for new committee members who might like to participate, just to give more information. I can also share with the group the little write-up that I did for council, if that would be helpful for people to read. I can just email that really easily. Would that help, Jay?
That would be great. Oh,
okay.
That'd be awesome.
That would be really nice. I don't know if we would want to do that on the 30th, just because it sounds like we have a lot to cover. I think that would be kind of confusing maybe, but maybe we could discuss it at one of our future meetings.
Yeah, and because it really is intended, the purpose really was as a volunteer group of residents to take a little bit of the load off our Public Works Department since they do so much. And just to get more kind of eyes and feet out on the trails, just keeping an eye on things to pass along to Public Works if there are needs that they may not have a chance to see, you know, if no one's on that trail for a week or something. But I will send that to the group. I'll send that little fact sheet.
Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing about the Nature Watch. Katherine said for residents, and absolutely for residents and for families, but we're also extending it to people who live outside the city and who are bordering Sunset Valley. Like we have several volunteers who are live on the streets bordering the South Hills. And it's possible that we might get some from Countrywide. So from the apartment complex, I talked to one couple from the apartment complex over by Home Depot, and they were very interested, but we didn't trade email addresses or anything like that. So it's not just residents of Sunset Valley, it's neighbors of Sunset Valley.
All right.
And just to add to that a little bit, we were really excited as council to see some volunteer efforts coalesce, and that idea came out of this committee. So I don't know that we have to keep it as a, you know, the heavy load, heavy lifting of this committee, but it would be nice if each agenda we had maybe an update on what's been happening with it. Just to keep us refreshed on how many volunteers do we have, what areas, when the cleanups are coming, those kinds of things. But I don't think we need to make it heavy requirement with all of our structure for government. So it can be more flexible and include as many people that want to come and help maintain the trails and clean things up.
So kind of along the same lines as that, I think. Carolina was going to ask, so since we are kind of starting over as a new committee, we did have like a spreadsheet full of kind of like our priorities. Are we sort of like just starting over completely? Or are we going to look at those priorities and where they might fit into our greater goals and objectives, and like to develop kind of a list of our committee's priorities that serve, you know, council's goals and objectives? Like I'm kind of thinking of the next meeting and what will be on our agenda. Beside, like, are we just going through the land development code, or are we kind of continuing with that list of goals and priorities that we did have as like an old committee?
I think we're trying to, you know, kind of streamline it to so that we're all working toward one kind of goal. I think a lot of the you guys were discussing kind of fall under and into the other things we were doing. So I think I can bring that document back and kind of show you how several of those things fit into the bigger picture of what it is that we're kind of moving toward now.
Okay. All right. Do we have any? Oh, Katherine?
Sorry, I'll make this quick. I noticed the email from Lisa only came to some of the members of this group. Do we have is someone in possession of the list of all of the emails for every member of this group? Like, for example, if I want to share this Nature Watch document, how should we share things like that with everybody?
I can check Lisa's email and send it to, like, Matt sent an email out, kind of like an orientation email. So as far as I know, that probably has everyone in it.
Okay.
And I would just remind everybody to make sure we take our open meetings training so that we're not creating forums and stuff when we're discussing items.
Does that need to be done before the 30th?
It would be great if everybody could do it this month and be done with it.
Okay.
I think Don, I think if you're still here, I think you already turned yours in. So
wow.
it takes like an hour, I think, at the max to kind of go through that. And it's on the honor system that you fill it, you do, print off your certificate and everything. So.
Okay, I'm sorry, could you, how do we get to that? Where do we?
I thought Matt sent the link out, didn't he?
And I know Carolyn sent out an email a couple of days ago and the link was in there. Is that right, Carolyn?
Yeah, let me see if I can bring that up real quick and I'll show everybody what it is we're talking about. Just a sec, let me get that up.
And I think in the code, we gave 60 days from the date of appointment.
Mm.
But it would be sooner the better.
When were we appointed? Was that like in January or was that December?
December.
Okay.
Here's the email I sent last week. This week, and this is the training you go to. Takes just a second, and there's a little.
Yes, I did.
And then you print your certificate and you just send that in.
Okay.
I know that. Okay, I will do it.
Okay. Well, it's a little past 8:30. Do we have any more new business we need to discuss or any new business we need to discuss?
I propose that we adjourn.
That sounds good to me. Did we get a second?
A second.
Okay, Helen, I saw a bunch of people trying to raise their hands. All right, so we don't need to vote on adjourning, right? Once someone seconds it, we can just adjourn.
We got a second. Let's go.
You guys later.
I just want to say I'm really excited that we have an architect, a CIS engineer, like the talent that we have on our team, on our committee is so great this year. And I can't wait to draw on their knowledge. And if we get Helen's expert presentation and then we have all this other data, we're going to be experts in by the end of the year. And Sylvia can hold our hands with the land development code and off to the races. So I'm really.
I agree, Lisa.
You don't even know you're already jockeying up, Lisa. You're at the race already. What are you talking about?